Well, I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for making it. I'm glad you can make it. Something is going on with YouTube here. Um, Stop streaming. Let's see. Something is going on with YouTube. It's not functioning correctly. And this happened last week and I don't remember what I did to fix it. Unfortunately. Okay. All right, I think that worked. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Music Theory Monday. My name is Tara. I'm a professional singer based in New York City, as well as a music educator, composer, and content creator. And I learned pretty early on in my content creation journey that the hunger for music education, knowledge is there, and there are not many resources. Welcome to Brooklyn, ladies and gentlemen. Just as you would expect. Hi, Yukigmo. How are you today? So today, Music Theory Monday, I'm going to teach you all a formula to learn how to build the various musical intervals that are present in the major scale, okay? So this includes major seconds, major thirds, perfect fourths, perfect fifths, major sixths, major seven, and perfect octave. Okay, if we were working with a minor scale, some of those intervals would be different. Okay, but just for today, we're going to do the major scale. So um, last week, I believe it was, we worked on building major scales. So we worked on the formula to help us build a major scale. And this week, we're going to learn the formulas to help us identify every single interval in that major scale, and then we'll ear train those things tomorrow. So I would love to start. Those of you who are here hanging out, would you let me know in the comments if you know anything about musical intervals already, and if you do, what do you know about musical intervals? Honeybee doesn't have any knowledge on musical intervals. That's okay. All right. So musical intervals is pretty much the space between two different pitches, okay? If we, for example, play the same pitch twice, that's really not a musical interval because there's no space in between. But if we play one pitch and then another pitch, okay, there's some space in between those two pitches. And that space is what we call a musical interval. Now, there's a ton of different musical intervals, right? We have 12 different pitches on the keyboard. Hi, Hannah. Nice to see you today. All right, and today we're just going to be working with the ones in the major scale. So we're going to start in C major because this is all white keys. If you don't have access to a piano or a keyboard at home, I'd love for you to download an app or go here to virtualpiano.net. If you're on YouTube, you can see here my background is a giant keyboard, so you can reference that as well. And I am live on TikTok and I am live on YouTube right now. I'm new on YouTube, so if you're joining me on TikTok and you're able to pop over and subscribe to my YouTube, I'd be deeply grateful. It's a great way to support me without spending any money. And the link to my YouTube is in my link in bio and also in my TikTok profile. So same handle, pretty easy to find. Okay, does everybody have a keyboard that they can work with? And not like a computer keyboard, like a piano keyboard. If you have a iPhone or iPad, this is called Piano by Impala, Impala. Okay. And I love this app because it has both the note names and the octave numbers on it. I haven't been able to find the equivalent for Android, but Android has a lot of free piano apps as well. Okay, so make sure you have one. You're going to need it. So the first thing that we need to understand in order to understand how to build a musical interval is we need to know what a half step is. Because a half step, hi Val, a half step is the basic building block for all of our intervals. Okay, so we need, it's like if you were building something with Legos, right? You need the basic Lego block that's maybe like an inch long and has the 6 little nubbins on top, or maybe it's 8, right? But that's like your basic Lego building block, right? So our basic music building block is what we call a half step. Does anybody happen to already know what a half step is? It can also be called a semitone. So if you're more familiar with that language, that works too. A half step is the smallest musical interval possible, okay? It can also be called a minor second or a semitone. And if you're looking at a piano or even a guitar, right? Guitar has what we call frets on it. It's those little bars that go across where the strings are. So one of those is a half step. And on the piano, a half step is your next closest key, okay, in either direction. So as we're building intervals, I'm going to be giving you formulas, and these formulas work up or down on the keyboard, okay? So if we're starting here on C4, middle C, and we want to go a half step up, we're going to go to the next available key to us, which happens to be this black key, which we could call C sharp or D flat, right? It's one half step higher than C. Sharps make a note higher by a half step, so that would be C sharp. Or if we were starting from D, we could call it D flat, because flats lower a pitch by a half step, okay? Any questions on that? Sharps and flats are what we call accidentals. A sharp raises a pitch by a half step, and a flat lowers the pitch by the half step. So because of that, we can have one note with the same pitch, but with different names, right? This black key here, we can call either C sharp or D flat. Okay? If we wanted to find a half step down from middle C, it would be this next key to our left, which is another white key in this instance. It's a B, but it's still a half step. So I want to make sure that that makes sense because it's really important. A half step away is the next closest key, regardless of whether it's a white key or a black key. Okay? This is super important because the half step is what we're going to use to build all of our intervals today. Now you might want to grab, rude, my pop-up notifications. Sorry, they hijacked my live. Okay. Now you might want to grab a pen and paper to write these down. I was really hoping I'd have a study guide ready for today, but it didn't happen. Those should be available by next week at the latest. Hopefully the middle of this week. Okay. Half step is the next key. Correct, honeybee. Thank you. Yeah. So when we're building these intervals, we build them with half steps. And this is why I suggested you might want a pen and paper, because you might want to write down how many half steps are in each interval. Okay. I have them memorized, but I've been at this a long time. So no shame in being a beginner, or if you don't have them memorized yet, not a problem. So when we're working in C, today we're going to just build major intervals in the major scale. We're going to build all the intervals in the major scale. Excuse me, I misspoke. Some of those intervals are majors, some of those intervals are what we call perfect, okay? And we're going to start every single one of these intervals from middle C, at least for now, okay? And we're going to build them all the way up from C to C, okay? However, these formulas that I'm going to give you, they work no matter where you start on the keyboard, okay? Just started playing guitar in December, but playing ukulele last year. You don't know much. Yeah. Cool. Well, welcome. Hopefully some of this music theory will help you as you learn how to play. Okay. So we're going to start from the bottom up. So first I'm going to teach you major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, perfect octave, okay? And for a major second, that's from our first scale degree to our second scale degree. Now, what our first scale degree is can change. It's relative, okay? So if we're in the key of C, our first scale degree is C, okay? The first scale degree is always the name of the key. So if we were in the key of F, for example, what would be the first scale degree? Go ahead, drop it in the chat, please. Yep, correct, F. So we're in the key of F, our first scale degree is F. If we're in the key of G, the first scale degree is G. If we're in the key of A flat, the first scale degree is A flat, okay? It's all relative depending on what key you're in. For ease, we're going to work with C today. Okay, so C is our first scale degree. So from our first scale degree to our second scale degree, okay, or if you're a singer and you know solfege syllables from chorus class or something like that, it might be do, re, or 1, 2. Okay, the note names happen to be C and D, but they won't always be C and D, right? Because this is relative. So if we're in a different key, the note names will be different. Okay, this interval is what we call a major second, and there are 2 half steps in it. C to C sharp, and then C sharp to D, okay? So a major second has 2 half steps. This is the formula, okay? You might want to write it down. You might want to commit it to memory. But if you want to be able to build these intervals after this live is done, you're going to want to jot down this information somehow, okay? So major second, 2 half steps, 1 to 2, do to re. That's our first interval. Okay, I'm going to move on to major thirds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you all the formulas in the key of C, and then we're going to practice building these intervals other places on the major scale, other places on the keyboard, okay? Major third contains 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps, okay? So we're going to start from C again, and we're going to count 4 half steps to find a major third. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we have from C to E, 1 to 3, also known as do to mi. And that was how many half stops? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Cool. 4, yes, you got it. Thank you for the likes also. The likes help me know that you guys are understanding what I'm saying, and I'll keep moving on. Okay. Cool. So after major third, the next interval in the major scale is called a perfect fourth. So starting on C, for a perfect fourth, we're going to count 5 half steps, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What note did you land on at home? Perfect fourth above C, counting 5 half steps up. When people say music is math, this is why. This formula is just counting. Okay, so our perfect fourth above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should have gotten an F. All right? 1 4 1. Or maybe you know solfege syllables, so you might say do, fa, do. Okay, perfect fourth. Now, a perfect fifth is a whole step above. So, if a perfect fourth had 5 half steps, and we're adding a whole step, which is 2 half steps, how many half steps do we have in a perfect fifth? Seven, correct. Starting at C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We land on a G. 1, 5, 1. Okay. Or do, sol, do. Great. The next interval after a perfect fifth is a major sixth. Sounds like hush little baby. Okay. There are 9 half steps in a major sixth. Sensing a pattern here? 5, 7, 9. Okay. There's 11 half steps in a major 7. Okay. And 12 half steps in a perfect octave, because there's only 12 half steps, 12 unique pitches on the entire piano in Western scale. Okay. So let's review those. Starting from C, we had, let's see, C to F, our perfect fourth here. That was 5 half steps for a perfect fourth. And then perfect fifth was 7 half steps, and our perfect sixth is 9 half steps. So let's work it out and make sure we got it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do, la, 1, 6. Okay. And then the major 7 is 2 more half steps above that. So we'll count 11 starting from C. Okay. You do not count your starting pitch, right? So when I start counting, C is really a 0. And I start counting 1 on the first half step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Do, ti, or 1, 7. Okay. And then we have our perfect octave. Do, do, which if you were going to count it, it would be 12 half steps. Okay, I'm going to pause there and see if we have any questions. Any questions? Because the next step is to practice. Okay, so we're going to pick a new key. Does anybody have a key that they want to work in? Maybe a key that they play in a lot, or they know they like to sing in. I will take suggestions. Okay. Let's work in the key of G. So if we're working in the key of G, excuse me, I had a long weekend and I am running on fumes, my loves. Okay. If we are working in the key of G, then what note becomes our one? How was the wedding? It was fine. It was fine. There were too many people for the size of the room, and it was it was fine. No, it was fine. It was just the room was so loud, it was hard to hear anything. So it was not great performance conditions, and you can hear my voice is hoarse, and that's from having to like scream over the noise in the room to just communicate with the other musicians. Certainly not ideal, but the clients were happy, which is what matters at the end of the day. Thank you for asking. Honeybee, are you saying that you want to use the key of F, or are you saying F is the first scale degree in G? I suggested G, but I think there's quite a lag here, so I just want to make sure I understand where your F is coming from. Thank you. I did good enough. Got a tip. So they were happy. That's good. Okay. We're going to continue with using the key of G here. So if we're going to use the key of G, then, oh, no, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought F would be the next half step. Oh, okay. I think I misunderstood as well. Let's work in the key of G. G is a very popular key after C major, okay? And if you're new to the keyboard, you're going to find 3 black keys. And then the G is the white key in between the first 2 black keys. I think I mirrored here. Hold on, I can unmirror my video. Maybe, if my phone will. It's so weird. It's not like letting me tap the more button. Hello? Everything is frozen. Mirror your video. Okay, got it. Okay, so now I am not mirrored on TikTok, but I think I'm still mirrored on YouTube. Okay. I hope this is actually looking like the keyboard now. You're working with a written out one. Okay, no worries. Okay, so here's a G, all right? And I'm gonna use this lower G here. Okay, if you're on YouTube, you can see there's a G right over here. Okay. Now G becomes our 1. So we're gonna first find, let's first find our perfect fifth, because a perfect fifth is a really common interval that is used in Western music. It's also really good for building harmonies. So do we remember how many half steps are in a perfect fifth? 7. That is correct. So start on G, and remember G becomes your 0, and you're going to count 7 half steps. I'll give you a moment to do it on your own. Figure it out, and then I will show you how I get the correct answer. But go ahead. If you found the note that you believe is the perfect fifth, you can drop it in the comments. D. Yes, D is correct. So if we're starting on G, G is our 1, and we're counting up 7 half steps to find our perfect fifth, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 half steps to our perfect fifth. So we go back to where we started, which is 1, 5, 1, 5, or do, sol. In this case, it is G to D. Because remember, the numbers and the solfege syllables are all relative depending on what key we're in, okay? Now, I'm going to have you find a major third. The reason I'm having you find the perfect fifths and the major thirds first is because this builds our triad, and triad is what a lot of harmonies are based off of, the major triad in Western music, okay? So if you need a little reminder, there are 2, 3, 4 half steps in a major third. So starting from G, where does your major third land in this key? One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 1. Or do, mi, do. You should have landed on a B. B like boy. Okay? So now if we build both of these intervals on top, we have 1, 3, 5. And you've built a major chord. So not only is this formula accurate for building musical intervals, but you can also learn how to stack the intervals on top of one another and create chords or triads, okay? Being able to build a major triad and hear a major triad is absolutely essential for vocal harmonies. Okay. A perfect fourth has 5 half steps. Can we build a perfect fourth above G? And what is our perfect fourth above G? What is the letter name? Let me know in the comments. Again, if you're just joining us and you don't have a piano at home, you can download a free keyboard app, or you can go here to virtualpiano.net. And that will, in a browser, and that will pop up a keyboard for you that you can work with, and as we build these musical intervals that exist within the major scale. Okay, how do we do? C, correct. Awesome work, honeybee. It is C. So starting from G, we're building 5 half steps above this G to get a perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Landing on a C. 1, 4, 1. Or do, fa, do. Now I want to show you a really kind of cool trick that can be a little bit confusing, but we're going to work it out together, so just stick with me. Starting on the G, can you now count 5 half steps below? So instead of taking them up to build a perfect fourth, take them down to build a perfect fourth. So you'd start at G, and instead of going up to the next black key, you're going to go down to the next black key that is below, that is a lower pitch, and count 5. You'll land on a different note than you did going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you land on a D? D like dog? Woof. Yes, awesome. So I want you to notice that when we go up a perfect fourth, it's G to C. When we go down a perfect fourth, it's G to D. When we go up a perfect fifth, it's also G to D. So you want to, as you're learning musical intervals, you want to slowly start to equate, oh, okay, so I can go from G to D and build a perfect fifth above, and that's the equivalent to G to D, a perfect fourth below. So do you see how they're a little bit offset? And that's because there's only 7 unique tones in the scale, right? 7 doesn't divide evenly. So if we're singing G or Do or the 1, and we want to now sing the 5th scale degree, we know we can sing it below or we can sing it above. If we sing the 5th above, we're working in perfect fifths. If we sing the 5 below, we're singing in the interval of a perfect fourth. That's a lot to chew on. Does that make sense? Can I clarify anything further? Are there any questions? So a perfect fifth going up is the equivalent to a perfect fourth going down. You land on the same note, but that doesn't mean they're the same interval because we go in opposite directions. Let me know if that makes sense. Double tap the screen. If it doesn't make sense, let me know how I can clarify. No shame in being a beginner here, as you all know. Val says it makes sense. Okay, fantastic. Cool. So let's practice our other intervals in a new key. Let's move into a weird key just so that I can, and by weird I just mean one that has a lot of sharps and flats, sharps or flats, so that you can see how this formula works no matter where you start. So let's do the key of E flat, okay? So you're gonna find an E on your keyboard. The E is just to the, you're gonna find 2 black keys and then the higher key just to the right of the top black key, okay? Find an E and then make it flat. So instead of 2 black keys, the higher one. Okay. Can you find a major 6th in the key of E flat? So now remember, E flat becomes our 1, right? And a major 6th has 9 half steps. So go ahead, work it out. Let me know what your answer is. Sounds like Hush Little Baby. That's how you will know you got it right, if it sounds like that in your ear. G is not quite far enough. So we're starting on an E flat. First, make sure that you're certain that you're starting on an E flat. Does it sound like this? Find 2 black keys together, and it's the one on the right. The higher pitched black key is your E flat. And then count 9 half steps up from there. So here's our E flat, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it is a C. 1, 1, 6, Do, La. Okay. Sticking in the key of E flat, let's build a major second. Major second is 2 half steps. So starting on that E flat once more and counting up 2 half steps. 1, 2. Did you land on an F? We should be on an F. Okay. Now let's find a perfect fourth in E flat. Perfect fourth is 5 half steps. So starting on that E flat again, but not including the E flat. Remember, the E flat becomes 0. Can you count up 5 half steps from there? One, two, three, four, five. This is an A flat. You should be on the middle key of the set of 3 black keys. 1, 4, 1, or do, fa. How's it going? Were we able to find those 2 intervals in the key of E flat? So also fun fact, if the name of the key has a flat in it, then it's a key that contains flats and not sharps, right? You're never going to mix and match flats and sharps in the same key signature. So since we're in the key of E flat, when we land on a black key, we're also going to call it flat, right? This is an A flat, not a G sharp in this case. Okay, let's build a perfect fifth now in E flat. So we just had a perfect fourth, and we know a perfect fourth is 5 half steps and a perfect fifth is 7 half steps. So you can go all the way back to the E and you can build the interval from scratch counting 7 half steps, or you can just add 2 half steps to your perfect fourth. And what note did you land on now for the perfect fifth? Should be a B flat. Okay, so we're starting on E flat and we count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 5, 1, 5, or do, sol. Is it making sense? I'm curious too, if someone keeps miscounting, let me know and I'll figure out what I can to help you. Okay. Let's see. The only intervals we haven't done in E flat still are major third, major 7, and the octave. So can you all find an octave? Do octaves make sense to everybody? They're fairly straightforward. So it's the same pitch, just higher. Okay. Do. Oh, that's not E flat. Here's an E flat. Do, do, do. Or 1, 8, or 1, or 1. You can call an octave 1, like it circles back to 1, or you can represent it with an 8. So that you know it's an octave higher than where you were before, okay? And there are 12 half steps, so if you wanted to check your work, you would start on the C flat, boop, and you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay? Cool. So now we're at a perfect octave. The major 7 is just 1 half step less than a perfect octave. So what note are you going to land on for the major 7? Starting on E flat, you can count 11 half steps from E flat. That's one way to do it. Or we just had our perfect octave, so you can just subtract a half step from that because we know a perfect octave is 12 half steps and a major 7 is only 11. So you should be on this D. 1, 7, do to T. Okay. And last but not least, we have our major third. Okay. Starting on E flat. How many half steps are in a major third? Do we remember this one's important? Major thirds and perfect fifths and perfect fourths, in my opinion, are the most important ones to memorize. Do we remember how many half steps are in a major third? 4, correct. So starting on E flat becomes 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, mi, or 1, 2, 3. Awesome. So now we've just gone over all of the musical intervals available to us in the key of E flat major. Let's do one more key, and we'll do a sharps key because that was a key that just contained flats. So let's do a key that now contains sharps. Let's do the key of D major, D like dog. So we'll find a D on our keyboard. Okay, you're gonna find 2 black keys, and it's the note in the middle. I'm gonna actually do up an octave here. No, I'm not. I don't want to sing that high right now. Okay, cool. So we'll build these in order, so you can see how the major scale builds itself out of musical intervals. Okay. So starting on D, the first interval in the major scale is a major second, which contains 2 half steps. So if D is our key, it means D is also our first scale degree. And to find the second scale degree, we count 2 half steps to find a major second. Cool, so I landed on an E. So now I know D is my first scale degree, E is my second scale degree. Okay, now I need to find my major third. All right, well, I know there's 4 half steps in a major third. So I'm going to go back to my first scale degree, which is D, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. I landed on an F sharp. How do I know this is an F sharp and not a G flat? Well, because I know that D is a sharp key, but what if I didn't know that D was a sharp key? Well, there's going to be a G, right? The perfect fourth in D is a G, and each note is only named once in a scale, okay? So we wouldn't have a G flat and a G in the same key. This is how we know it's an F sharp and not a G flat, okay? So starting again from D, we found our major second by counting 2 half steps, okay? So that's our first scale degree and our second scale degree. And then we found our third scale degree by finding the major third. We know it's an F sharp. So now we have 1, 2, 3, or do, re, mi. Okay. Our next interval in a major scale is a perfect fourth. So now I'm going to count 5 half steps from my first scale degree, which is D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool, it's a G. So the next note in my scale is a G. 1, 2, 3, 4, or do, re, mi, fa. Okay. Is this making sense? Any questions before we build out the rest of the intervals to finish the scale? The next interval in the major scale is a perfect fifth. Honeybee says, I'm having tech issues, so I'm just going to take some notes. Yeah, no worries, Honeybee. The replays of these live sessions are also immediately posted on my TikTok. Okay, or not my TikTok, excuse me, on my YouTube. So if you want to go back when you have better connection or you miss something to take for your notes, you can go find me on YouTube. I'm the same handle. You can, it's in my link in bio. We'll connect you to my YouTube. So will the links on my TikTok profile. Please subscribe on YouTube because I'm new to YouTube, so that's a big help. And then there's a playlist called Music Theory Monday Replays, okay? And you can re-watch any of this information to take notes. Also, if you're not familiar with how to build the major scale without the intervals, I suggest watching last week's session, which was building the major scale. It's a great foundational video to then build musical intervals off of, okay? Cool. But if anything I'm saying doesn't make sense in real time, please ask a question so that I can answer it and hopefully provide some clarification, and so you can have a better understanding. That's why I do these live, so that I can answer people's questions in real time. Yeah, of course, my pleasure. Thank you for wanting to learn. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're building a perfect fifth now in the key of D major. A perfect fifth is 7 half steps. So if you're going to remember anything, remember that a major third is 4 half steps, a perfect fourth is 5 half steps, and a perfect fifth is 7 half steps. These are the most important when we're wanting to build harmonies in Western music, okay? And friendly reminder that we're just working with the major scale today. There are different rules that apply for minor keys, okay? Starting again on D, because we're in the key of D, so D is our first scale degree. We're now going to find the perfect fifth of this key. So we're going to count 7 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I landed on an A, okay? Did you land on an A at home too? If you didn't, go back and check your work. Okay? Starting from D is the 1, and then A is the 5. We could also call it Do, Sol, Do. Okay? Perfect fifth. Our next interval in the major scale is a major 6, which is a whole step above the perfect fifth. And remember, there are 2 half steps in every whole step. So we can start from the bottom. We can start from our 1, and we can count 9 half steps. Or we can go to our perfect fifth, which we just realized was A, and we know it's a whole step above the perfect fifth to get to the major 6. So we could just start from here and count 1, 2. Or we can start from here and count 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Either way, I landed on a B, right? So I just want you to see how these formulas are fluid, and however your brain works, you can think about this in like a myriad of different ways and use the technique that works for you, right? As long as you're getting the correct answer, it doesn't matter how you got there. Everybody's brain works in different ways, so use the way that makes the most sense to you, okay? Now, we're going to find that major 7, which is 11 half steps from the 1. So you can go back to our 1, which is D, and count 11 steps up. Or our major 6 was 9 half steps. Our major 7 is 11 half steps. Or we can just count 2 half steps above the major 6. Okay? So our major 6 was B. So if we count 2 half steps above, I'm landing on a C sharp. I know it's a C sharp because we know we have an F sharp, and we're not going to mix and match sharps and flats. We also know that there's already a D in this key, right? We're in the key of D, so it's not going to be a D flat. We wouldn't have a D and a D flat in the same key. So we know that this is a C sharp, not a D flat. We also know it's a C sharp because we figured out that the third was an F sharp and not a G flat. So they're going to match, okay? So starting from the D, we're counting 11 half steps to find that major 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I landed on the same C sharp I did, counting from the major 6, okay? So do you see how it doesn't necessarily matter which formula we use, we're ending up in the same spot? Okay, cool. And then we have our perfect octave, which is D to D, 1 to 1. 12 half steps, because there are only 12 half steps in the Western scale. Low do to high do, low 1 to high 1. You could also call it 8 on the top to signify that it's an octave above. Okay? So that concludes our lesson on how to build intervals in a major key with the major scale. Does anybody have any questions about anything we did today? Go ahead and drop them in the chat, and while you're typing out your questions for me to answer, I'm going to let you know that tomorrow is Ear Training Tuesday, And I will be live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm in Brooklyn. Okay, I'll be live on TikTok and I will be live on YouTube. And what we do on Ear Training Tuesday is we apply some of the knowledge that we learned in Music Theory Monday. So last week on Ear Training Tuesday, we did ascending intervals. Okay, so we learned how to sing do to re, do to mi, or 1 to 2, 1 to 3. Like we learned how to sing all those intervals. Tomorrow we're doing descending intervals. So instead of going from low to high, we're going to go from high to low. Okay, so if that ear training interests you, I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Don't forget the replays are on YouTube. So if you're not available tomorrow for Ear Training Tuesday, you can go to my Ear Training Tuesday replay playlist. Anytime after the session is done tomorrow, it'll be up there forever and ever. So don't worry, you don't have to miss out. And if you missed last week's Ear Training Tuesday, I do recommend going to watch it before tomorrow if you have time. You can watch it on like double or triple speed. If you go to the little gear icon on YouTube and click on it, you can change the playback speed so you can watch it a little bit faster if you don't have as much time. But you're going to want to learn how to sing the intervals in both directions. It's going to be really useful for your musicianship. So, oh, yes. You're welcome, Val. I'm so happy. You're so dedicated to learning. You're always here. So thank you for always showing up. I appreciate it. And I realized that I actually scheduled these on YouTube and I forgot. I had such a hectic weekend. I forgot to schedule them on TikTok. So, but they're up there now. You can pre-register and TikTok will remind you. Or if you're on YouTube, they're pre-scheduled also. You can click the notify me button and YouTube will remind you. And also in your own time zone, if you're not also in the eastern part of the United States like I am. So my name is Tara. I'm a professional singer based in New York City, as well as a music educator, composer, and content creator. I have offerings, different offerings each day of the week. Music Theory Monday is what you are all experiencing right now. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't followed me yet, please do. If you haven't subscribed yet on YouTube, please do. I do ask for tips in order to keep Harmony Nerd content free. If you go to my link in bio, there's a button that says tip me, and once you click on that, it'll open up a document that has info on how to send me a Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, and if you're not able to send a donation, even the smallest amount helps. But if you're not able to, that's totally cool. You can support me in other ways like liking, following, sharing, subscribing. You can join my email list. That's also in my link tree. And when you sign up for my email list, you will be sent a PDF on how to build major triads. Okay. It's really useful. It'll help you learn the music theory, basic music theory of vocal harmonies, as well as how to build them on your own, whether you play piano or not. Okay. So my offerings consist of Music Theory Mondays, Ear Training Tuesdays, Warm-Up Wednesdays, which is a vocal warm-up routine. You can see how I warm up as a professional singer to develop your own vocal warm-up routine. Thursdays I offer free voice lesson instruction. Okay. And this week that is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Fridays I do something called Frequency Friday, which is it's like the soul piece of music making. Okay, talking about confidence building and some different techniques that we can use to help build up our courage, because it can be so hard to put yourself out there in this way. So Frequency Fridays are kind of like a little mini support group for pumping ourselves up and each other up. And I teach some techniques that I've learned for nervous system regulation and confidence building. I also offer something called a vocal assessment if you're interested in improving your singing voice, but you don't have either the time or the money to commit to weekly lessons. This is more of like a one-off thing where we both show up online, you sing a couple songs for me, and then I provide you some information on what you do really well and where you could use improvement. And then I also provide resources for what I believe would be the best practice for where you are and for improving. Okay, Val, I love being here. You're the sweetest person. Thank you, Val. I really appreciate it. No, I'm glad that you're here. Um, I'm tired today, so I hope that I was able to communicate the information properly. And if something was unclear, I apologize. Let me know. I'm happy to clarify. Um, but if there are no further questions, my dears, I'm going to sign off for today, and I will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for Ear Training Tuesday, where we will learn how to hear descending. That means from high to low musical intervals. Okay. All right, my friends. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.